Vivid verses.
The envelope had been on the hall table for 2 days before I opened it. That was the first thing I noticed about myself, looking back, that I had let it sit. The home office crest in the corner, the franking mark, the weight of it heavier than a single sheet of paper should be. Mira had walked past it 4 times that I'd counted, picked up her keys from beside it, set down her phone on top of it once, then moved the phone as if the contact had been a mistake. People who have nothing to hide don't choreograph their movements around an envelope. I opened it on a Thursday evening, alone in the kitchen, with the kettle going for tea. I no longer wanted by the time I'd read the second paragraph. The letter was a request for further information regarding inconsistencies between the sponsor's declared financial position and supporting documentation submitted with the application. It listed 4 items. 3 of them concerned a buy-to-let flat I had inherited from my grandmother. The 4th concerned a savings account I had closed 18 months earlier. I had not declared any of these things to the home office. I had not declared them because I had not been asked to. The application packet had been submitted 4 months ago. Mira had handled most of it. She was the applicant, after all, and she had been thorough, organized, patient through the long evenings of paperwork. I had signed what she had put in front of me. I had provided what she had asked for. I had assumed, in the way a person assumes the floor will hold his weight, that what I was signing was what I was reading. I read the letter 3 times. Then I folded it, put it back in the envelope, put the envelope in the inside pocket of my jacket, and made the tea I no longer wanted. When she came home an hour later, late from the gym, hair still damp, the smell of chlorine instead of sweat, which I noted without making anything of it yet, she asked what was for dinner, and I said I'd thought we could order in. She kissed the top of my head as she passed. I watched her go through to the bedroom, and I thought, I have a decision to make in the next 90 seconds about whether I am going to mention the letter tonight, and the correct answer is no. Not yet. Not until I knew what she had actually submitted. Information asymmetry favors whoever moves second. That was the thought, clean and clear, before I had even fully understood what game I was playing. The solicitor's office was above a dental practice on a high street I had walked past 100 times. Ariv Bot had been recommended to me by a colleague's brother who'd been through something difficult and complicated, and on the other side of which had been Ariv, calm, organized, and entirely unsentimental about the law. I had emailed him at 6 the next morning. He'd replied by 7:30. I sat in his waiting room at 11, having told my office I had a dental appointment, which was technically true in the sense that I was in the same building as a dentist. I had brought everything I could lay my hands on: copies of bank statements, the deed to the flat, my passport, the original home office letter, a printout of every email Mira and I had exchanged about the application, going back to the day she had first raised it. What I had not brought, because I did not have it, was the application itself, the full bundle, the submission as it had actually gone in. That's the first thing we'll need, Ariv said, after he had read the letter and sat in silence for what I judged to be just over a minute. He had a way of reading that suggested he was making a list in his head and would not be hurried off it. You're entitled to a subject access request. It will take time, but it's the cleanest route. In the meantime, I want you to think very carefully about something. Yes, you've told me what you signed. You haven't told me what you saw. I want you to tell me, in detail, what you actually read before you signed. I thought about it. I thought about it properly, not the version of it I'd been telling myself on the way over. The covering page, I said, the declaration of relationship, the sponsorship undertaking. I read that one carefully. The financial requirements page, where my income was listed, I checked the income figure. What about the schedule of assets? There wasn't one when I signed. We hadn't got to that part yet. She said the solicitor would do the financial annexes. Arv's expression did not change, which was how I knew it was bad. There was a schedule of assets in the submission, he said. There would have to be for the Home Office to be asking the questions they're asking in this letter. Someone produced it. Someone signed it on your behalf, or in a way that purported to be on your behalf. It wouldn't be my signature. I never signed one. There are versions of this where it doesn't have to be your signature for it to be a problem for you. If you're named as the source of the information, if your authority is implied by the application going in under your sponsorship, you carry exposure regardless of whose hand held the pen. I sat with that for a moment. What's the worst version? I asked. The worst version is that someone has filed a document in your name making representations about your financial affairs that are not true, and the Home Office has caught the discrepancy, and the question becomes whether you're the victim of that or a participant in it. You and I both know which one you are. The Home Office doesn't yet. Then we tell them, "Yes," he said, "but not today. Today we get the file. Today we work out exactly what was submitted. Today we don't say anything to anyone, including her, that we cannot afterwards prove we said. Are you keeping a journal?" "No." "Start one tonight. Every conversation, every text, every absence, every change. Dates and times. If she asks you what you're doing, you're working on a side project. You are. This is the side project." I left his office at 1. I went back to work. I did 3 hours of competent, mechanical things at my desk, and then I drove home and was warm and curious about Myra's day, and I asked her about the gym and noted that she had not been to the gym at all on Tuesday because the receipt for a coffee shop on the other side of town was still in the side pocket of her bag where I had glimpsed it taking out my own card the night before. I did not look for it again. I had seen it once. That was the entry in the journal. The subject access request would take weeks. I did not have weeks of patience, but I had weeks of stillness, which is a different thing. In the meantime, I started watching. Not in the wild way, not the way men do in films, ransacking drawers and reading diaries. I watched the way you watch a market you are about to invest in. I watched the patterns. I watched what was on the kitchen counter at the end of the day and what had moved by morning. I watched her phone, not the screen, but the behavior around it. The way it lived face down now, where it had not used to, the way she carried it into the bathroom when she showered, the small adjustment in the rhythm of her hand toward it when a notification came in. She is not yet aware that she is being observed, I thought, which means whatever she is doing at the level of someone who feels safe. That will not last. I have somewhere between 2 weeks and 2 months before the Home Office letter forces a moment. The interesting question was what she would do in that moment. I rehearsed it on the drive home, in the shower, during meetings I was nominally attending. The letter had been addressed to the sponsor, which was me. She would not have seen it unless I showed it to her. So either she did not yet know it had arrived, in which case she was operating on the assumption that the application was proceeding normally, or she did know, somehow, and was operating on the assumption that I had not yet read it. The first scenario was the likelier. The second would imply a level of access to my correspondence I did not want to think about yet. I tested it gently on a Sunday morning. I left the envelope on the kitchen table, address visible, while I went to make coffee. I took longer than I needed to. When I came back, she was sitting at the table with her tablet, and the envelope was where I had left it, and she had not touched it. She did not ask what it was. She did not comment on the Home Office crest. She poured me coffee and asked about my mother. She did not know it had come. That was useful. It told me she had been, in some sense, keeping her side of things tidy at the level of plausible deniability. She had not been intercepting my post. She was relying on the application going through, on the schedule of assets going unchallenged, on whatever else she had built going untested. The other thing it told me was harder to hold, but harder still to look away from. She was capable of sitting 6 inches from a Home Office letter addressed to me on a Sunday morning, with coffee, with sunlight in the kitchen, and not betraying, by even the smallest tell, that she had any reason to be afraid of what was inside it. That was a level of composure I had not, I realized, ever fully credited her with. I revised my estimate of who I was sitting across from. The flag came up on the second application before the first. I learned this in Arv's office on a Wednesday afternoon, 3 weeks into the wait. He had asked me to come in, which he did not often do. He preferred email for reasons that were probably to do with discoverability and were certainly to do with efficiency. And when I sat down, he turned his monitor a little so that I could not quite see it, which I read as a kindness. "There is a second application," he said. I waited. Different sponsor. Different address. Not yours. Not anywhere I can place from her file. Different solicitor. Different relationship status. She has been declared as the partner of someone else, with cohabitation evidence dated from a period that overlaps significantly with the period in which she has been resident with you. The application is being processed in parallel to yours. The Home Office, to their credit, has joined the dots and flagged both. How did you find this out? I didn't. Someone in the casework stream noticed that the biometric was the same person on 2 live applications. They've internally cross-referenced. Your solicitor, that's me, it gets told because your application is the one with a sponsor who has, on the record, started asking questions. The other sponsor has not. Does the other sponsor know? Almost certainly not, in the same way you didn't until 3 weeks ago. I sat with that. I sat with it for longer than was comfortable, because the first thing to do with information of that shape is to feel it in full, to stop trying to manage it before it has finished arriving. The second application was not a contingency. It was a full architecture. Different address meant a tenancy or a household somewhere that I had not been told about. Different solicitor meant deliberate compartmentalization. Different relationship status meant, and here was the thing I had to let land, meant another man, somewhere, who was being told by Mira that he was the center of her plans, who was signing his own version of the documents I had signed, who was sitting in his own kitchen with his own kettle and his own assumption that the floor would hold his weight. She has been running my sponsorship and her exit strategy in parallel, I thought, keeping both warm in case one failed. I am not the relationship, and the other man is not the affair. We are both the relationship, and we are both the affair. The relationship is the application. The applicant is the only person who knows that. It was, in its way, an extraordinary piece of operational design. I noticed distantly that I was not angry. I had been waiting for anger, the way you wait for a sneeze you can feel coming, and it had not come. What had come instead was an enormous cold clarity, the kind I associated with the moments in my working life when a problem stopped being complicated and started being merely difficult. "Tell me what we do," I said. Arav nodded, as if this was the correct first sentence. "We move quickly and we move quietly," he said. "We do 4 things in this order. We file your account of what happened directly with the Home Office, with full documentation. We withdraw your sponsorship, formally, in writing, with a covering letter that makes clear you became aware of misrepresentations made in your name and acted as soon as you were aware. We protect your assets. I want you to give me a list of every account, every property, every joint anything by tomorrow. And we put you somewhere she cannot reach you while the rest of it plays out. Not for drama, for containment. People who have built what she has built do not respond well to discovering it has been seen. Define do not respond well. At the low end, an attempt to reframe, to preempt your account with a counter account, to muddy the record, to claim coercion or confusion or a misunderstanding she can dress up in plausible language. At the high end, retaliatory allegations. Domestic ones. We've seen it before. You want her to discover the flag after we have already filed your account, not before. How long do I have? My guess, based on the casework timing, is between 4 and 10 days before she's notified that there's a problem with her application. From that moment, she will be motivated. Before that moment, she is simply a woman managing her week. Then we file in 4 days. 3 would be better. 3, then. He looked at me carefully. You haven't asked me whether you should confront her. I'm not going to confront her. Most people in your position want to. Most people in my position are imagining a conversation in which she explains, I said. I've already had every version of that conversation in my head. None of them end with information I don't already have. They end with her finding out what I know, which is the one thing I'm not going to give her until I have closed the door she opened in my name. He almost smiled. He didn't, but it was close. Bring me the list by morning, he said. I did not go straight home. I stopped at a pub I did not normally go to, and I sat in the corner, and I made the list on my phone in a notes app one had created that afternoon and protected with a passcode that was not the passcode I used for anything else. Current account, savings, the flat, the pension, the 2 ISAs, the car, joint utility accounts. There were 3. The household account she had access to, into which I paid a fixed sum every month. The credit card on which she was a secondary card holder. The credit card was the one that gave me the longest pause. Not because of the amounts on it, which were ordinary, but because of what canceling a secondary cardholder felt like. Small, administrative, irreversible. The kind of thing you cannot pretend was a misunderstanding. The kind of thing that, once done, has been done. I did it from the corner of the pub, on the bank's app, while my pint went flat. The confirmation came through in under a minute. Secondary cardholder removed. Replacement primary card to be issued. The flat was held in my sole name, which was a small mercy of inheritance. The savings were sole. The pension was by definition sole. The joint utilities were the joint utilities. I left them for the moment because changing them now would generate notifications she would see, and notifications she would see were the thing I was managing the timing of. I went home at 9:30. I had eaten a packet of crisps in the pub. I told her I'd had dinner with a colleague. She accepted this without comment. She was watching something on her tablet with headphones on, and she paused it to ask me how my day had been, and I said it had been long, and she said, "Poor you," and she went back to whatever she had been watching. I sat across from her on the sofa, and I worked on my laptop on the side project I had told Arv I was doing. I was making a clean chronology of the application, every email, every document, every conversation I could date. By 11, I had a timeline that ran to 7 pages. She went to bed at 11:30. She kissed the top of my head as she passed, the same kiss as every night, the same small ritual of warmth. I noted, with the part of me that had been activated 3 weeks earlier and now would not switch off, that the kiss was identical. Not warmer to compensate, not cooler with distance. Identical. Whatever she was consistent, and consistency was a skill, and I had to take it seriously as a skill rather than letting myself be moved by the surface of it. I worked until 2. I sent the timeline to Ariv at 2:15 with the asset list. I slept in the spare room with the door closed, having told her at 11 that I had an early call and didn't want to wake her. The early call was real. I had scheduled it that afternoon for exactly this purpose. Plausible cover, every step. The next 3 days are the most disciplined I have ever been in my life. Day 1, I went to work. I worked normally. I had 2 meetings and a lunch with a client. I came home. I made dinner. I asked her about her day and listened to the answer. She told me she had been to a yoga class. I had previously confirmed by the simple act of looking up the studio's timetable that the class she had named did not run on Tuesdays, and I said it sounded restorative. Day 2, I met Ariv at his office at 7 in the morning. We refined the letter to the home office. 12 pages. Every claim sourced. Every document indexed. The tone was the tone of a man who had been wronged and who was reporting the wrongness as a matter of administrative correctness, not as a matter of grievance. We removed 3 sentences that read, even faintly, as emotional. The final document read like an audit. Day 3, in the morning I called my parents. I had not yet told them anything. I told them, in 20 minutes, in a flat voice, the shape of what had happened. I told them I would be coming to stay for a short while, starting that evening. My mother cried. My father said only, your room is made up. Drive carefully. That was the closest I came to weakening, and I did not weaken because his calm was the calm I had inherited, and I needed it now to do the next thing. Day 3, in the afternoon, I went to the bank in person and changed every password and every notification address on every account Mira had ever had visibility of, even tangentially. I did the same with my email. I did the same with the cloud storage where the application documents lived. I created a new email address on a new provider that no one in my life knew about, and I forwarded the relevant accounts there. Day 3, at 4, Arif filed. He filed the withdrawal of sponsorship, the factual account, the documentary annexes, the request that my name be flagged on the file as having no authorial responsibility for the financial declarations. He copied the relevant casework team. He copied himself. He copied me on the new email address. At 4:15, he texted me a single sentence, filed and acknowledged. Go now. I had been sitting in my car in a side street for an hour. I drove home. I let myself in. The flat was empty. She was at what she had told me was a work thing and what I had no reason to verify. I had 2 hours, by my calculation, before she came back. I packed in 40 minutes. I packed clothes for 2 weeks. I packed my passport and my birth certificate and the deeds to the flat and the documentation I had been compiling and the laptop and the chargers. I packed a photograph of my grandmother because I noticed it on the shelf and I did not want to leave it in the same flat as Mira, even for one more night. I packed nothing of hers. I touched nothing of hers. I left a note on the kitchen counter. I had drafted the note that morning with Arif, and we had gone through 3 versions before settling on the 4th. The final version read, Mira, I have become aware of the contents of the application submitted in my name and of the second application running in parallel. I have withdrawn my sponsorship and provided the Home Office with a full account. I will not be discussing this with you. Please do not contact me directly. Any communication should go through Arif Bot, whose details are below. The flat is mine. I will be in touch about practicalities through him. No accusation. No anger. No question. No opening. I left the keys on top of the note. Not my only set. I kept my set. It was my flat, but the spare set, the one I had given her 2 years before in a small ceremony that had felt at the time like a milestone. I left them flat on the counter, neatly aligned, because I knew the image of them would do more than any sentence I could have written. I locked the door behind me. I drove to my parents' house. I arrived at 9:30. My mother had made shepherd's pie. My father poured me a whiskey and put it in front of me and did not ask anything. I ate. I drank the whiskey. I slept for 10 hours, the deepest sleep of the previous month. My phone rang 17 times that night, between 11 and 3. I did not answer. I did not read the messages. They went into a folder Arif had told me to create, named Simply Forward, and from that folder, they were forwarded automatically to him. By the morning, the rules of the game had changed. She had discovered the flag on her own application. Arif's working theory was that her solicitor had been notified late on the same afternoon, which was tighter than we had hoped, but still on the right side of the line. And from her perspective, the world had reorganized itself in a single evening. Her sponsor had vanished, her secondary card was dead, her keys were on a counter she could no longer access, and a man she had been managing for many months was suddenly somewhere she could not reach him. I let her have the morning to absorb it. I had toast and coffee with my mother, and I walked in the garden with my father, and I did not look at my phone. Arif called at 11. She's tried me twice, he said. Once in tears, once measured. The measured one is more interesting. She's going to try in the next few days to construct a narrative in which you and she had a disagreement, in which you are acting out of jealousy or insecurity, and in which the discrepancies in the application are the result of confusion or her solicitor's error. I want you to be ready for that narrative to reach people in your life. Friends, family, possibly your employer. She wouldn't go to my employer. She might. People in her position often do. They reach for whatever lever is to hand. It rarely works, but it can be unpleasant before it doesn't work. Understood. There's something else. The other sponsor has been in touch with the Home Office. He's woken up. He's filing his own withdrawal. I'll let myself feel something for him for a moment. A man somewhere, at a kitchen table, opening his own envelope. The same envelope. The same hand. Is there any reason for me to speak to him? I asked. No. Your accounts will speak to each other through the case file. That is the correct level of contact. Anything more becomes complicated. All right. One more thing, he said. You're going to want, at some point in the next 2 weeks, to hear her side of it. You're going to want it not because you doubt what you know, but because the human mind is structured to want closure. I'm telling you in advance that closure of that kind is not on offer. The version she will give you is not the version that will help you. Stay off the phone. I'm staying off the phone. Good man. She came to my parents' house on day 5. I had not expected this, although I should have. I had been careful about my address, but not careful enough. My parents lived where they had lived for 30 years, and Mira had been there twice, and the route from the station was not difficult. My mother saw her from the front window and came into the kitchen and said, very quietly, "She's at the gate." I looked at my father. My father looked at me. "What do you want to do?" he asked. I thought about it for the time it took to take a breath. "I'll speak to her at the gate," I said. "I won't let her in. You stay inside. If she tries to come past me, you call the police." "Not before." "Are you sure?" my mother said. "Yes. There's a version of this where I never see her again and never have to look her in the face, and I don't want that version because I want to know that I was capable of standing in front of her once with everything I now know and not flinching. I want that for myself, not for her." My father nodded slowly. 5 minutes, he said. "If you're not back in 5, I come out. 10, 7, 7. I walked down the path. The morning was cold and bright, and the gravel was loud under my shoes, and I noticed, distantly, that I was entirely steady. She was at the gate in a coat. I had bought her. Her face was a study, not the face I had been imagining, not the face I would have built if I had been riding her, because I would have given her something more obviously broken, but a face I recognized, the face she used when she was concentrating on getting something right. Her eyes were red, but not wet. Her hair was pulled back. She had done this carefully. "Please," she said, before I had reached her. "Just 5 minutes. Just so you can hear me. I can hear you from here." She blinked. "Inside," she said. "Please. Or the car. We can sit in the car." "No, I haven't slept. I haven't." "I'm sorry to hear that. I'm not going to invite you in, and I'm not going to sit in a car with you. If you want to speak to me, you speak to me at this gate, and you do it once, and afterwards you go to Ariv for anything else." She looked at me as if she had not, in some sense, fully understood until that moment that the man on the other side of the gate was a different man from the one whose flat she had walked back into for the past, however long it had been. I had been told not to think about it, and I was not going to start now. "I made a mistake," she said. I waited. The financial part, I didn't understand what they were asking for. The solicitor told me to fill in approximate values, and I thought you wouldn't mind. I didn't think it mattered. I should have asked you. I know I should have asked you, but I was trying to make it easier for you. I was trying to— Stop. She stopped. "You're going to tell me a version of this," I said, "and the version will be carefully made. I'm asking you not to make it. You don't owe me a version, and I don't want one. The thing I want to say to you, and the only thing, is that I know about the second application. I watched her face. I watched it carefully because I had wanted to see this exact moment, and I wanted to remember what I saw. She did not gasp. She did not deny. The thing that happened in her face was smaller than that and more interesting. A recalibration, a movement in the muscles around the eyes that was the muscle memory of a person who had walked through a door and discovered the room beyond. It was not the room she had prepared for. "That's not what you think it is," she said after a moment. Her voice was lower now. Different register. She has more than one register, I thought, and she has just gone to the second one, and she will go to a third if I let her. "It doesn't matter what I think it is," I said. "It matters what's in the file. What's in the file is what the Home Office will decide on, and what the Home Office decides on is no longer my problem. You sponsored me. I sponsored a person I believed I was in a relationship with. That person doesn't exist. The withdrawal has been filed. My account has been filed. My name is off your file in every way it can be. Whatever happens next happens between you, your solicitor, the other sponsor, and the casework team. I am not part of the conversation." The other, she stopped herself. It was the first thing she had not been able to fully control, and it lasted half a second, and then it was gone. "There is no, whoever has told you that has." "Mira." She stopped. "Don't," I said. "Don't do this part. I am asking you, as the last thing I will ever ask you, not to stand at this gate and lie to me about something I've seen on paper. You can lie to other people about it. You can lie to yourself about it. You can build whatever story you need about me after today and tell it to whoever will listen. I'm giving you that. I'm not going to fight you for the story. But you don't get to stand here and say to my face, 'That part is over.'" She looked at me for a long moment. "You're enjoying this," she said very quietly. I considered the sentence. I considered it as a piece of information about her rather than about me. It was, I realized, the move of a person who had run out of available moves and had reached for the only one left. The move that tries to put the other person on the defensive about their own composure. She is improvising now, I thought. She has arrived at the gate without a plan that survived contact with reality, and she is reading my face to find a foothold, and there isn't one. So she is reaching for the smallest sharp thing she can find. This is the moment at which she has nothing left. "No," I said. "I'm not enjoying it. I'm doing it. There's a difference." I stepped back from a gate. "Arav has my number," I said. "He doesn't give it out. Anything you have to say to me from this point on goes through him. If you come back to this house, I will call the police. Not because I'm afraid of you. Because the next time you appear here uninvited, the record of it matters more than the conversation." She opened her mouth. She closed it. She was, for the first time in my memory of her, not in command of the room. In this case, the road, the gate, the cold morning air, the silence of the gravel under my feet as I turned. "Goodbye, Mira." I walked back up the path. I did not turn around. I heard, behind me, the small sound of her hand on the gate, the shifting of her weight, a syllable that might have been the start of my name and was not finished. I heard a car door, eventually, and an engine, and then the quieter road that was, for me, simply a road again. My father was at the kitchen window. He had a mug in his hand. He nodded once as I came through the door. My mother was at the table, her hands folded in front of her, not looking at me, which was the kindness she knew how to give me in that moment. I sat down at the table. "Tea," my mother said, getting up. "Yes," I said. "Please." I did not say anything else. There was nothing else in that hour that needed saying. Arav called in the afternoon to confirm that she had left and that the visit was now logged in the file as an attempt at direct contact in contravention of the standing instruction. He confirmed that the casework on her 2 applications was now consolidated. He confirmed that the other sponsor's withdrawal had been received. He confirmed that nothing further was required of me for the next several weeks, and that he would handle anything that arose. He asked me, at the end of the call, whether I was all right. I considered the question. "I will be," I said. "I'm not yet, but I will be. The thing I needed to do, I did. The doors I needed to close, I closed. She knows now, and she knows that I knew before she did. and that's the shape I wanted it to have. Good. Thank you, Arif. Don't thank me. Just don't answer the phone if she calls from a number you don't recognize. I won't. I hung up. I sat in my parents' garden for a while, in the watery afternoon sun, and I let myself feel, for the first time in a month, the simple physical fact of being in a place she could not enter. The next thing I had to do was nothing. The thing after that, I would work out when I came to it. For the first time in a long time, I was the only person writing my own name.
Thanks for listening.